Hey everybody, have an amazing show planned today. It's going to be about this citizens group that decided to go and do a study. This was paid for by the city of Portland to do a study on how mean and hurtful and rude the Portland Police Bureau was during the 2020 George Floyd riots. And we're going to go over the study, what they found, and what they suggest and what they say happened, which is going to be hilarious. But first, before we get into the show, I wanted to take a moment and thank you guys. I got over 100,000 subscribers overnight while I was sleeping, and the feeling is just ecstatic. Like, I wanted to especially thank everybody who's been with me from the beginnings, and I just wanted to take a minute and just tell you guys how much I appreciate you. Everybody coming in, don't worry, the content is not going to stop. The only way they're going to be able to stop me is by deleting my channel again. So if you haven't already done it, go over to Rockfin and subscribe there. It's free. You just have to put in your email address to create an account. So make sure you guys go over there. But thank you from the bottom of my heart, everybody who has joined and stuck with me this whole time. It really means a lot. And with you guys and the help of you guys, we can beat this delusional fantasy land, fake news, garbage that is known as the left with truth and reality. And that is what this show is going to be about, bringing some truth and reality to a demented report coming from a citizens group in Portland, Oregon, that they submitted to the city about the Portland Police Bureau.
Portland United Against Hate sought to learn more about the use of force by police against citizens in the city of Portland over the course of the daily protest activity that took place in response to the murder of George Floyd on May 25th, 2020. PUA used a crowdsourced tool called Report Hate PDX to gather first-hand testimonials from citizens engaged in First Amendment activities over the summer of 2020. The resulting report offered stories from Portland citizens who had experienced police violence and hate. The report showed the Portland police engaged in aggressive crowd control measures that left many individuals with lasting injuries and trauma. The data also described police who targeted journalists, legal observers, and medics. PUA's report highlighted three primary themes regarding Portland police behavior and the effect on that behavior on citizens. Indiscriminate use of force by PPB, lasting injury and trauma on innocent civilians, illegal and unethical targeting of media, legal observers, and medics.
Then they talk about the horrible, harmful health effects of, the tear gas and CS gas and crowd control agents and people getting shot with baton or, the whatever. It's just, they cry about, oh gosh, people are going to get hurt because they're rioting in the streets and the cops are, doing something about it. Weird. But, and speaking, I just want to let everybody know who are new to this channel is that I was there. I was there during the riots. I was down filming the riots as they were happening. I was actually shot by the popo right here in my elbow, right there with the pepper ball. It was a sniper who shot me from a door through a gap that big in a fence. It was incredible. And I know that I was targeted legit because just about 10-15 seconds before I got shot in the elbow, I mentioned how it was weird that I have not been shot by one of these munitions or crowd control agents before, and I've pretty much gone unscathed. And
now, I've been very fortunate and have not been hit by a pepper ball personally, knocking on wood as soon as I find it. But a person next to me has, a few people next to me, very close to me has, and just the sound, hearing the pepper ball hit them. So I don't want it. I just don't want it. I don't want to play that game. I will tell you guys that the one thing that's the most interesting about this is that with the feds, the protesters. Ow! Son of a. Right in the elbow. See? I jinxed myself. You guys called it right. Totally jinxed myself when I said that I've gotten a lot of close hits. And You bet.
And they had a command center inside the Hatfield Courthouse where they were watching all of our live streams. So I will guarantee you that they were like, yo, so the Common Sense Conservative just said this on his live stream. Like, do it. And they did. I was dying. I was laughing so hard. I was like, oh, that hurt. Oh, you bet it hurt. Like, it was bone, right on the bone. And yeah, they hurt, but I was laughing so hard. It was hilarious. And if I could ever meet the officer who actually shot me in the elbow, I would love to shake his hand because that was a great shot. But anyway, continuing.
Community members expressed that PPB officers' use of force without prior clear instruction or adequate time to disperse seemed inconsistent with a genuine desire to de-escalate. Others balked at the notion that warnings or directions constitute adequate de-escalation. Commands are not de-escalation, said one community member. Another individual, who identified himself as affiliated with the Portland police team, said to that police, de-escalation has meant get on the effing ground. There has broad agreement with the idea that PPP officers incite violence at protests, deliberately terrorizing and antagonizing the public. Many felt that police tactics threaten public safety and put officers at risk themselves. An individual who identified himself as a therapist.
What's the difference between a cop and a therapist? A therapist sometimes has to call the cops.
Therapists trained in de-escalation said that police match community aggression and do not de-escalate, noting that the power differential between police and protesters means that the officers have a greater responsibility to avoid displaying aggression. Others agreed, with one community member stating, "The onus is not on the public to do better, but is to not to be killed."
Now here's a little thing. So in there, they were like, oh, boo-hoo, people didn't give us adequate warning. People didn't, like, tell us what they were going to do. It's not de-escalating when the cops are saying, hey, stop doing that. Yeah, so check this out.
This is the Portland Police Bureau. This event has been deemed an unlawful assembly. People gathering around the Justice Center are interfering with the operations of both government and county facilities. The time now is 1:31 a.m. You have 5 minutes to remove all barricades around the facility and leave the area. Failure to follow this direction may subject you to arrest, citation, or use of force, including crowd control munitions. Leave the area to the west. Southwest Columbia to Southwest Taylor. From Southwest First.
Now you guys tell me, was that clear? Was that clear at all? Like, I know that apparently everybody there had no clue what was happening because there were fences heading on down closer to the Justice Center. People weren't leaving. And the cops, gave this stupid thing. Oh, in 5 minutes, we're going to give you 5 minutes. They literally said 5 minutes. I wonder what happened 5 minutes later. So then, after the 5-minute mark and they cleared the area around the Justice Center, you guys saw them kind of marching around, right? They kind of went back a little bit and they marched, and then where did they go next? Oh, they went back to the Justice Center. The whole crowd back to the Justice Center. And watch what happens next.
This is the Portland Police Bureau. This is an unlawful assembly. Leave the area by traveling to the west now. The area bound by Southwest Columbia Street to West Burnside Street from Southwest First Avenue to Interstate 405 is now closed.
Now, in case you guys couldn't hear that, or English wasn't your first language, allow me to go ahead and just explain. The area is closed, still, because that was said previously. This is an unlawful assembly, still. This was mentioned previously. The areas between X, Y, and Z are now closed to the public. Travel this direction. But again, don't worry. People didn't know what the deal was. The cops didn't give warning. The cops didn't tell people what to do. The police were not clear and concise with their instruction and their direction to the public. Are you kidding me? No, yeah. A third grader would be like, Mom, Dad, shouldn't we go that way? Yeah, the cops said to go that way. Let's go that way, Dad. Okay, thanks, because this is weird. They said they're going to use crowd-controlled munitions, and I remember watching a movie, munitions mean boom. We don't want to do that. A third grader could figure this out. A 3-year-old could figure this out. And yet, the crowd doesn't go anywhere. The crowd's throwing stuff at the police. The crowd is saying, F you, pigs, which is really gross, by the way, because that's bestiality and that's disgusting. But again, the cops are the bad guys here. Somehow, some way the police are the bad guys because they gave hours of warnings and the crowd doesn't move, and then they go, okay, again, we're going to do this to you if you don't move. Like, if you keep doing that, we're going to give you a little spanking on your tush-tush. And guess what happened? They did it. Sometimes. Most of the time they didn't do it. But the few times that they did do it, oh, golly, look at the fascists. And speaking of fascists, of course they're going to start complaining because the police were nice to Patriot Prayer and the Proud Boys, but they were so mean to the black-clad commie wannabe ninjas. Check this out.
PPB's disparate responses to Black Lives Matter protests versus armed alt-right marches and interactions with Proud Boys emerged as one of the most common bias-related observations. Community members perceived that PPB officers had jovial interactions with armed right-wing groups and noted the closure of the Hawthorne Bridge to allow a group led by Proud Boys to march across. Community members also noted the police allowed Proud Boys to store weapons, including firearms, on the roof of a downtown building in anticipation of a clash between protesters and counter-protesters. Forum participants juxtaposed these interactions with what they described as PPB's negative and often violent response to Black Lives Matter actions and counter-protests to right-wing actions.
Let me lay this out as simply as possible. The reason that the PPB and most police organizations treat right-wingers a little bit better than they do the left-wingers is because the right-wingers, for the most part, are usually following the law. They aren't breaking laws. So the simple fact that people had a couple guns in their trunk, which is legal, locked in their trunk, and it's okay and good to go, no problem whatsoever. Can't do anything about it because it ain't against the law, versus smashing windows, assaulting other people, assaulting officers, and lighting fires. That's a little bit of a different thing there. Yeah, but again, the left doesn't realize this. The left doesn't care about this. The left thinks that arson and murder and other felonies that they commit on the regular, those are fine, and they should be fine because it's like, it's no big deal. It shouldn't be illegal. The purge should be just a daily thing. It's fine because that's how they lived during 2020. But if a couple right-wingers decided to do a march or something like that where they didn't break any laws and they didn't break anything and they didn't hurt people unless they were getting assaulted and attacked, I don't know. It's weird. I don't get it. But truth be told, more right-wingers would be arrested and are still in jail, whereas the left can go out and they can destroy an entire city and they don't get prosecuted. But yeah, we still have people in jail on the right because, well, no such thing as political persecution or anything like that. Not to mention the fact that Tiny Shooter is still running free and, things like that. Or just the fact that conservatives and right-wingers, since they follow the law, they're a lot easier to arrest and apprehend, considering they don't sit there and fight people as soon as somebody gets tackled, like Antifa does when the cops are trying to arrest somebody and 30 people jump on that cop and then injure him, of course, in an effort to get their comrade freed. But The report continues.
Discussions repeatedly emphasize that officers seem to understand how to use de-escalation techniques when dealing with right-wing demonstrators, but not when dealing with the anti-fascist and left-wing demonstrators. One attendee voiced that the police simply do not react to the Proud Boys in the way they do Black Lives Matter. Others agreed, noting the police calmly escort armed right-wing protesters. But police treat people of color especially more violently. Community members also voiced the belief that PPB officers unevenly apply concepts like riot or totally of the circumstances to actions by different groups. Using the language to justify stopping or using tear gas on Black Lives Matter protests when the same standards have not been invoked to disperse or attack Proud Boys. One individual brought up the 2019 attack at Cider Riot by Proud Boys and Patriot Prayer as an example of biased inaction by PPB, claiming the officer's failure to respond to the destruction of a business in broad daylight showed that protecting property was a disingenuous justification for violence against protesters this summer.
Destruction of property at Cider Riot? Well, let's go ahead and take a little gander here at Cider Riot. Now, this footage is from a good buddy of mine from Stumptown Matters. You can watch the entire thing on his channel, and we're just going to go over it. We're going to skip through a little bit, but as you will see, first of all, who the bad guys are, and second of all, where's the destruction of property? This is what I mean, guys. This is what I mean by they live in a delusional world of fantasy. Like, there's footage, y'all. Y'all can see it. Everybody in the entire world can see that there was no destruction of property and who started it.
Hey, you're not, this is private property, you're not allowed to film here?
This is actually public property, a sidewalk right here, but thank you.
No, it's not.
Okay, well, go get your deed or whatever. I'm not here to cause any problems, so don't try any problems.
none of us are here for violence.
The violent fuckers are afraid and they're back there. I'm just fucking checking shit out.
Yeah, me too. We keep it non-violent, we keep it positive. You know Joey Gibson? He keeps it non-violent, he keeps it positive.
What's wrong? You don't like brown boys?
They don't love tiny.
Hey, that was my best video.
Big man, you want to fuck brown one? I watched that thing 4 times before I decided to send it.
Yeah, your shirt says Christ. Let you know
Why not? You have to mask?
It's all right to
That's crazy.
Fucking stand down!
Oh no! Oh no! A riot happened at Cider Riot! There's a riot at Cider Riot! Sorry, fuck off, dude. Oh no, there's a riot! They're on people, retard! Oh no, call the police! I don't care about you fucking bitch! Cider Riot! Hey, fuck off with your glass bottle bullshit, fuckers! Oh shit! He's fucking jacked his camera. Take care of this establishment.
I will get it back for you. Students! These are OSU's, dude! Get the fuck out of here!
I was on stop.
Are you?
I was on stop.
Why do you come to work? Get the fuck out of here! You this is fun!
What'll happen? You want to control people! You want to control women! You want to control everybody who's not just like you! Fuck you! Put them on off! Calm down! You fucking coward! Calm down! Calm down! You want to calm down? Does that mean you're aggressive? Does that mean you're aggressive? Take him down, take him down, take him down, take him down. Run it, run it, run it. Don't hit him with that. Get him, Jay, come on.
No one jump in. No one jump in. Shut up. Nobody.
Get the fuck out of here. Hey, go home. Get him, Jackie. Go home. Hey, go home.
Get him in the ball.
Move on your head, stupid shithead. Hey, Rocco.
Right hook. Yeah, nice. Hey, good job, dude. Honorable, honorable. Okay, I walked out. I'm sorry.
This guy right here! This guy right here! Joey!
I'm sorry. Well, fall back, fall back, fall back, fall back. You stay back, fall back, fall back. You will fall back, fall back. Hold my camera, hold my camera, hold my camera, hold my
Fucking hood, get the fuck out!
No!
Get the fuck out!
We're backing off. Get the fuck out of my face.
Move faster!
Get the fuck.
Move faster!
No.
No, you need to move the fuck
Get the fuck back. Get the fuck back. I'm not your enemy. Fucking stay back
Yes,
from me.
you are!
I am not.
When it comes to riots, that's about the lowest key riot you could possibly have expected out of Portland. I mean, there was literally a mutual combat scuffle going on there where they're like shaking the Antifa dude's hand and saying good job and honorable, you know. It's like, it's ridiculous. And the simple fact that Joey still has charges pending about this stupid little altercation, which was barely even an altercation. Honestly, truly, the only thing they did wrong was going to Cider Riot in the first place. Cider Riot was a hangout for Antifa, and people went to Cider Riot. But that's no different than what Antifa does every single time the right wants to have an event in the Portland metro area. They show up. They travel miles upon miles to go show up to their events. Joey and the small group of people that went with him literally just walked down the street and then, oh, hey, there's Cider Riot. Weird. Big oopsie, I guess, because, well, as we all saw, like, and again, you can go to Stumptown Matters and see the whole thing. Just type in Cider Riot and you'll be able to find it. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous that this, A, charges are still pending against Joey and some of the other people, and then B, that they said there was property destruction. The only property that was destroyed that day was property from the bar from Antifa throwing glass over at the Patriot Prayer crowd and the dude's camera that got jacked up. Other than that, there was no property damage going on at the place. Therefore, the entire argument that the PPB doesn't care about property damage when they didn't respond when, you know, things were happening there, no, that's not a valid argument. Try again.
Now we're getting into the surveys. The first survey revealed that 43% of respondents experienced dissatisfaction with PPB tactics used against peaceful protesters. Overall, survey respondents indicated as a desire for the following changes: a greater emphasis on de-escalation techniques, demilitarization of police gear, ending the use of batons, CS gas, pepper bombs, spray, flashbangs, rubber bullets, eliminating the use of LRAD against peaceful protesters who follow directions.
So essentially, they just want the police to just stop it. They don't want them to have any gear, any equipment, anything that would help, stop a riot. They don't want them to have batons. They don't want them to have pepper spray. They actually, not even kidding, they want them to show up without any riot equipment whatsoever. Plain clothed. They want them just to wear their uniform and their nice little dress shoes. No helmets, no masks, no armor, nothing. They just want them to come out because they say that if they're, look scary, then that makes people get a little angry and make them break stuff because they look scary. Oh, they look like military people, and that's scary. Yeah, no joke. That's what these people believe. That's what these people are trying to get other people to believe. No. The cops need to be dressed up like RoboCop. I have witnessed enough officers being assaulted and projectiles being thrown at them. Shoot, I've had the projectiles thrown and shot at me. You bet these guys need to be dressed up like RoboCop to deal with these violent thugs. The demilitarization of police, the only people who say that are people who want to break lots of laws and windows and loot and murder and do all sorts of horrible things to society, or people who have no idea what they're talking about. Those are the only people that say demilitarize the police. Period.
And now we go into our major complaints. Number one is lack of precision. We're just really upset, essentially, that people and the second one is better when they were shooting, okay? So and then they use the equipment, especially tear gas, just kind of impact heard it all, and the tear gas you just shot it into the crowd, and it just the whole crowd got affected by it. And even if there was just a few people who were doing bad things, you didn't really care. You got everybody who was there, even though people were throwing stuff and lighting fires, and there was 1,000 people there, and maybe 150 of them were doing it. You warned everybody, but you just didn't you didn't aim at the tear gas. Just the bad people. Everybody got tear gas, even though you sat there and you gave us warnings for hours and stuff, and we just didn't like it. And then the proportionality of what you guys did, oh my god, it was so horrible. Community members described scenarios where they felt the equipment was used when force wasn't needed. It just wasn't needed. Portland police officers have put tear gas and rubber bullets in response to a thrown water bottle and fence shaking and yelling, even though there was 400 water bottles and people were getting hit with them and people were getting injured and stuff. And then the cops used batons to people who were on the ground, even though they were fighting them and stuff. And then other people were jumping on them and stuff. They would use them because they're just mean. And then they used the officer safety as a justification use of force. It caused several horrible injuries. People were hurt and they didn't like it. And the heavy riot gear was it was okay for the cops didn't need anything. They were gonna be fine because the riot gear would have protected them from everything. Oh my god! And this is what we're demanding: that PPB officers be required to have their last name clearly identified on their uniform, consistent with the proposed bill. Blah 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 blah. A police officer who is performing an official crowd control duty shall prominently display on both the front and the back of the police officer's uniform a lettering eligible to a person with an average vision in all weather and light conditions from a distance of at least 25 feet. The police officer's last name, badge number, or other identifying number in either to word police and the word law enforcement. And this has nothing to do with doxing people and trying to ruin people's lives and going to their house and destroying their property. I swear. This is just because we want to make sure that we can, if a cop does something bad, we can actually, go and, press charges and stuff. It has nothing to do with doxing them like we've already done so many times, okay? Because we won't do that anymore. It'll be new this time, I promise. And we're going to demand de-escalation recommendations, okay? Enough soft clothes for protest response. Opt for ordinary patrol uniforms, or at least clothing that doesn't suggest the expectation of violence. Because even if things are burning and windows are breaking and people are getting hurt and stuff, don't expect violence just because it's happened so many times, okay? God, seriously. You need to facilitate movement of people in crowds at protests instead of stopping them from doing what they're doing. seriously, like, just stop it. Just let people do what they want to do so they can break windows without people seeing them. God, prioritize clear communication. Like, give real time and calm and clear descriptions, guys, like you did so many times over and over again, but nobody listened, okay? Like, do it now because it'll work this time. Adopt an out-of-sight response strategy. Like, just don't be there. Just stop. Don't even be there at all. Just let us do our stuff. Avoid less lethal munitions and stop using weapons that target groups rather than individuals because, like, just stop it. You're going to make people go away and we won't be able to riot anymore. And then just avoid using, like, anything that's escalating. Just like, anything. Just, like, don't be there, okay? God.
Yeah, that went off the rails really quick. And the reason it went off the rails really quick is because of how ridiculously childish and juvenile and infantile and stupid this really is. The simple fact that they're saying all of these things without actually saying why they're doing it, because everybody already knows why they're doing it, and the fact that there are adults out there going, no, yeah, that makes sense there, eh? That's a good idea. We should go ahead and just make sure that we give them what they want there, because these poor peaceful protesters who never did anything down there, according to the news that I saw there on CNN, even though the local news was down there filming while it was going on live on Facebook and all over the TV and stuff, where they're filming the fire saying it was a peaceful protest too, just like the CNN guys. So it was all fine. No big deal. There weren't people dying or anything on the street. It was perfectly fine and dandy. You just get tired of it after a while. And eventually you just need to break down the code speak for what it really, really is. The simple facts that they're lying about what happened in 2020, and the fact that they made up all of these boohoo horrible things, and people are buying it. There is over 1,000 videos that you guys can watch of what happened during the riots between 2016 and now. And I was down there for the more than 100 days of riots that were happening in Portland in 2020. You guys can go see it. You can watch how many warnings the cops gave these peaceful protesters who were lighting fires, hurting people, and smashing windows, and stealing thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of merchandise and property. You can see it all for yourself. It's all out there. I actually have them numbered. Day 1, day 47, day 52, day 112, and so on. There's so many of them. Feel free to go watch them all, and every single one of their little whines and their little points is bunk. Total garbage. It's easy to find. That's why I do what I do. That's why I go out there and hit the streets. That's why I travel to some of these events, so that people can see the truth and what actually happens and blow up the narrative garbage fantasy that these people live in. And I can't do it without your guys' help. I can't. I am demonetized. I am doing all of this right now for free, essentially. There's a few of you that have helped me out, and I cherish every one of you, and I appreciate every single buddy who has helped me out. But I need more. I'm not even going to lie. This is the end of the video, and I am just letting you guys know that I am in desperate need of some more help, guys. And if you can possibly help out, get me to some of these other events that are coming up. There's one in Central Washington that I got to go to. Gas is getting expensive. Everything is getting expensive. And if you guys could possibly help me out in any way possible, all of my links and stuff are in the description of this video. I would appreciate you all very, very much. And most importantly, share this stuff out, because it is so incredibly important that the truth